Morning, I want to show you some of the updates we've done with the AI SOAR. So, security orchestration, automation response. Like I said before, that's just a placeholder because there's not really a good name for all of these tools that are basically backed by AI agents. So I would call this a cybersecurity agent platform because the only reason I have this over 200 tools on the side here with command line interfaces is so that the actual supervisor, guardian, and worker agents can execute their mission. It doesn't mean as a human you can't conduct any of these missions, but you're not going to run it at the speed of AI. And so, however, it does give you the chance to really look at what's going on in your organization. If you're, a chief AI officer, you get to see all your governance across your AI stack and your agent stacks. If you're the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, you got your views on all of your open incidents, your tests, your static and dynamic assessments, your packet captures, your if you've done data dumps, your detonation chambers, everything like that. If you're the chief risk officer and you're looking across all the compliance on all your systems, on all your authorization boundaries, any type of assessments that are ongoing. And of course, if you're in Department of Defense and you have a CNO, Computer Network Operations mission, kind of what operations you're running with those capabilities. So that's the dashboard. Risk management is basically just what the settings for the back end you're going to have. This doesn't list you, just limits you. So FedRAMP, ISO, CMMC 853, and then the NIST AI Risk Management Framework. This is not limiting. This is just what the high-level dashboards you're going to see. Unified findings. This is where it doesn't matter for human, an AI agent, or a connection actually pulls data that's security, privacy, or reliability relevant. This basically connects the backend fabric so all the tools can use these findings, and any issues. So threat intelligence, exactly what you expect. This is where you're going to enrich your data. And so this goes out to, the DHS, the NIST, the different websites that are out, the MITRE, and pulls in all of the CVEs, common vulnerability enumerations, the National Vulnerability Database, the KEVs, the CWEs, the attack frameworks, it just any SCAP, security content automation protocol data that's out there, Stix, TAXI, and Cybox that allows you to enrich your data, enrich your assessments, enrich your threat feeds. And then, of course, you can set up AI agents to go run deep web, dark web, and then normal on web tests. This is so you can really, the unified scheduler is set up so you can really go out and set up your plan for governance, risk compliance, red teaming, blue teaming, incident response, any type of phishing simulations, any type of compliance test you're going to do. And you'll notice, this will fulfill all of those organizational roles we had too, because it's not just, your pen test for production. And then maybe you've geotagged APT, Advanced Persistent Threat 38 throughout your organization. You're going to constantly run that red team because that's the most likely one hitting your organization, your spear phishing simulations, your weekly dynamic assessment tests. So then, really wireless audits, those are normal. But the other thing that it does is it's constantly checking and assessing your AI agents to make sure that they're not acting up, they're not having data drift, there's no issues with them, and I'll show you that too. Of course, if you are in the government or you know what continuous monitoring is, you want to be able to basically, once your system, even if it's an ISO system, has undergone assessment, and you want to continually refresh that evidence to make sure that you're keeping it up to the security and privacy posture that you set. You have your overlays through the governance layers here. You can see your evidence freshness, your domain status, your control monitoring, and then any triggers that would cause, your continuous monitoring. And this is the great thing about using AI agents. It's like, you might have a trigger in continuous monitoring, like, a control failure. And then you're waiting for a human to deal with it, as where in this platform, you can set it up so that your agents go out and identify, escalate, and mitigate that issue. So asset management, I'm not going to go over a lot of that, but it's pretty much set up the way it's before. So you have your different profiles. These will be one or multiple offices that you have throughout your either organizational boundaries or even geographical locations. This is your your scans usually, or your MIDB, so you'll bring in all of your assets. And what this does too is if you don't have a CSV with your assets, or CMDB, configuration management database, or any whatever you might call it, then you can just do a scan. And what the scan is really, at the lower end, it's an Nmap scan that identifies ports, protocols, and services. It then does a CPE check, a common platform enumeration check, so it identifies the version and asset, and then you can select that into your authorization boundaries. So really what that means is, so you can do assessments on it, like maybe you have a production environment and you have a testing environment, or maybe you have an operational asset compared to maybe some assets that are more HR based and stuff, and you have different controls you want to implement. Um, and we have supply chain risk management built into this. And if you're not in DoD, you might be like, well, why would I want to do this? Um, the reason you would want to do it is, maybe your suppliers, for whatever reason, you're using them and they have a significant security incident where something's embedded into their software or hardware. And in our system, if you enumerate an asset that's in your boundary, it's going to automatically add it to the supply chain risk management assessment, but you can add any vendors in here. It also, if you're, let's just say that you're doing government operations and a vendor gets bought by a foreign entity, that will automatically come in here. So it does what's called a NIST 800-161 risk indicators. And then, access to sensitive data, your cloud services, access to systems, foreign ownership. And it doesn't matter what country you're in, this all works about the same. So you can add additional controls in here if you want. So you're not stuck with the DoD controls or the NIST 800-161. So if you're doing an ISO supply chain risk management, you can do that same thing. This is the testing hub. And what this is set up to do is really give you a view into all the different types of dynamic and static scans you're doing, the fuzz campaigns you're doing on your different websites and your systems, any malware analysis. And this is really powerful. We used to, in the past, have to have a lot of capability around being able to identify indicators of compromise, fuzzing, and then doing that, for lack of better words, we would build hashes, and then we would have to build what's called an entropy table, and then go out and see if there's other similar indicators of compromise, if they're dug in, and then you'd have to pull the evidence in. And anyways, so what this does is really allows those really sophisticated assessments and campaigns to be pretty much automated. You can do your pen tests, you can do red team, blue team, purple team, outsider, insider, or both. You can set the depth and rigor of the scans and capabilities. So you might just be wanting to do a quick scan on my organizational assets and tell me whether or not, there are any new systems or issues going on, or I'm going to do a full, cradle to grave, inside outside penetration test on this new system. And this is done no differently than when I had teams of 5, 10, 20 assessors being able to execute these tests. So the difference is you're now starting out with a supervisor agent. I'm going to show you this, and they're going to identify the team members you need based on the enumeration of the asset. So if it's a website, web service, operational technology, maybe it's a specific type of service bus that needs to be used to enumerate that asset. So it puts that entire set together, and then it identifies, the vulnerability assessor, the SaaS, the DAS team, the persistent assessor, even the person that rates a report. And that's all kept with a SHA-256 chain of custody. So you can always go back and tell what was used, what tools were used, what AI agents executed what, and what they found. This is I keep on talking about SaaS, sorry. I have a military background, so I love acronyms, but SaaS is just static application security testing. You probably do this already. There's lots of great tools, like you're doing it in your Git, you're doing it in Claude, you're doing it in Replit, you're doing it in these different AI environments, but this also allows you that extra layer to even check that AI code. And so you can put your Replit, your Git, you can scan web services. It's going to look at CSS, HTML, all of those wonderful, your JSON, any of your embedded Python scripts and stuff like that. And so this is looking for CWEs, so more on the software side. But anyways, this allows you to do that static analysis. You can look at the code before it's an executable, after executable, but more the code itself. Um, then you got your network intelligence, and this really just goes out and does kind of like the scan I told you before. It runs Nmap, it'll run OpenVAS, it'll connect the security content automation protocol back to the back end. It'll enrich that data and prioritize it based on threat, malware, and vulnerability information. So it does a lot of that. And then you can also go out and test zero trust architecture. So if you have an identity management system up, you can do that, or ZeroTrusted.ai, you can test your own platform. So then there's the threat response here. You can see all of your incidents, what's going on in your organization. And one thing that you probably noticed up in the corner is this keeps on changing up here. So what that really is those are the available page agents that you can execute these missions with. So incident response, forensic investigator, open clock kill switch, endpoint security manager, cyber team. All of these are available as you're going through kind of the human interface, so the UI. And then if you want to start running a agent to go execute that mission, bring you back the data, mitigate the issue. I'm going to show you more of that in a little bit. And you're not stuck with this platform either. So yes, we have over 200 built-in tools and over 200 agents to execute those missions. We also have, I think we're going on about 300 different connectors. So you can connect your existing data fabric, your existing security tools. You can bring the data in here, all of your enterprise applications, plan of action milestones. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but they're poems. If you have to deal with these, that's a pain in the butt. So what we do is we're going through and doing the red team, blue team, the continuous monitoring. We're looking for the different types of attacks these agents are identifying. We're putting them into your poems. And if they're duplicates, you can dedupe them. So you know how much pain in the butt that is. So a lot of this is automated in the background. If you're doing contingency plan and incident response testing, we have a module there for you. This is your patch management. Once again, you can manually go out and put your patches out, your baselines. If you're a closed environment, meaning you don't go directly to the patch source, you can configure the endpoints for where you're going to get your patches and add new sources. So if you're like, wait a minute, I don't go directly to Microsoft and check the hash patches, we have an additional process. This just allows you to set that up here. All your package updaters, and then the platform health of what actually is installed, if there's anything missing, and any problems you might have, so that you can come in here and fix that. Like I'll go fix that after this meeting. Forensics, this is one of those things you can either do with humans. So the back end is obviously a data dump, and then you have some socket-based write blockers, so you can pull and collect the data from your email server, your hard drive, your Android iOS, your cloud, your share server, or maybe it's a data export itself. You can connect it to your detonation chambers if you know what that is. And then, this is doing the actual malware analysis on the data dump. And the cool thing about that is this whole process too, because it's keeping the evidence, it's hashing it, it's using a write blocker ports and stuff like that, is it keeps a full chain of custody. So you can still continue working on identifying those malware, those hashes. If you're doing an insider threat, you're keeping that digital chain of custody. And what I like about this is too, the agents. I mean, I used to train incident responders and forensic analysts and stuff like this, and I can tell you the really good ones had lots of skills, knowledge, and attributes, and they know how to use the tools like no one else. Well, that's why I'm training my agents in this platform the same way I train humans, and I'm testing them the same way I would test the humans. And luckily, I can do it at the speed of light or the speed of AI compared to, Waylon, when you did that data dump, you forgot to turn on your write blocker. Or, Waylon, when you collected that evidence, you forgot to hash it to prove that it was actually at that time, and that specific evidence collected was from that specific host. So all that kind of stuff is done in the background. It's automated. It's done. You can collect human, or you can let the AI agent do it, right? And it keeps that information. It pulls the evidence. It keeps legal holes. So if you have some type of litigation going on, you can deal with that. You can upload. I don't use this a lot, but this is basically so you can connect your log artifacts with this incident response. You can pull them in. You can keep all the investigations together. Same thing, audit logs. I don't use this a lot, but you can bring your audit logs in here and pull them into one place. This is where you're going to do the most work, I hope. And this is really the power of the platform is Agent Hub. So AI Agent Hub is where you're going to manage all of your agents. And not only manage them, it's where you're going to build them. It's where you're going to give them their brains. So you're going to allocate them your large language models or small language models. And, one thing I will tell you as you're building AI agents is your supervisors, you want them to be really smart. So I try to use the state of the art LLMs on my supervisors, but a lot of the repetitive tasks that we do in cybersecurity, privacy, and even reliability don't necessarily need state of the art. If you're going to do a static assessor and they're going to be reading the CWEs, or you're going to be collecting evidence and you're running an incident response and you need to know all the agents, state of the art. If you're just going to go and pull system logs and then you're going to pass them to a smarter agent to do the analysis, you can set up different LLMs. And that's why this is important. And the way I look at this too is that you can set up first party or third party. So we have a built-in one, an LLM and an SLM, and we use the NVIDIA products for that. But it's zero trust. You can set if you have your own products, if you're allowed to use the Chinese versions, you're allowed to set those up. So everything is in this platform can be configured by the owner, including where the data is stored, transmitted, reviewed, the governance levels across those agents. You can, if you have multiple locations and you want to build specific types of agents, let's say, I don't know, you're in retail and you know that your AI agent retail has to do some very specific things that are kind of not the normal incident response or testing process. You can build them, put a marketplace, and then your other organizations can use them. You can keep analytics on what they're doing. You want to know what tools they're using. And I'm going to show you some more information about this, but this is basically, what percentage of success are they having when they're calling the tools? Are they using them? Are they getting the data back? In your cataloged how many tools you have, and then you can do it by domain. Um, and why this is important is really the registry is not just the ones you have on board. So right now I have 237 agents. This changes all the time. Customer comes in, they want a new agent. They're like, hey, Waylon, we just built a fraud detection team that looks behind the bank's fraud detection team to basically find, issues in stuff they've already looked at. So it's almost like having a second team, but not having to hire the second team. And when they get more, I don't want to say just familiar, but they agree that the AI agents are doing their job well, they might move into it and help that first team right away. So then the team that's currently doing the fraud management is basically running the AI agents and verifying their work and grading them and that type of stuff. So this is a force multiplier, to say the least. And you can go in here, and I'm going to show you, like, as of right now, you can basically view it, you can pause it, you can edit and builder. And so why would I edit an agent? The reason you want to edit an agent is that you want to go in here and select its name, whether it's a supervisor. Remember I told you, supervisors who use large language models. Guardian blocks and monitors and responds to data all the time. So these guys are on a lot. I'll tell you, Guardian agents, I try to use a low cost small language model, or if I can, and if it's really complex, you might have to, burn some of those GPUs. But Guardians are really expensive because they're active 24/7. And then the worker is basically that, you're putting a swarm together and you're going to respond to some ransomware and they go and execute and then they're turned off. So you would want to go in and edit these and basically change them because maybe your knowledge, skills, and attributes are different now. Maybe the tools you're going to give them access to, maybe you want to turn down their permissions, right? So if you're in DoD, I did specifically for Department of War. Sorry, I'm old. I don't say so. So the Department of War has these different DoD cyber workforce. Look, it's still DoD. I need to change that. But what I wanted to do is I was like, wait a minute. Instead of humans, can I train the agents with the same knowledge, skills, and attributes, test them, and then actually give them access to the tools and see if they can execute. And so I put that in here. So my Department of War friends and family can go execute these missions and really force multiply, right? This isn't limited to Department of War. If you have a data administrator, a database administrator that's going to be doing security work, instead now you have an agent. So that's why that's there. Agent tools, this is really important in that the one difference I'll say about our platform is that, you know, the tools themselves have to be tested. So it doesn't matter if it's an open source, if it's one of your existing tools that's connected, and then we put a command line interface in the back end. Why? Not just because I like command line interfaces, but because it uses less tokens. So if an agent is trying to figure something out, they're not always just do image processing and burn the hell out of your tokens. And maybe tokens will be free at some point, so you won't care, but right now we care. So anyways, this inventory basically tells you, is it built into the system? Is it verified? Like state compliance checks, automatic web app pen test. Is it approved? And then, AI firewall detection logs, all the tools that you'd use in your cybersecurity organization. But agents are trained to use these tools. You can, as a human, go connect them, configure them, do whatever you want. There's some lab simulation. This is mostly for phishing, like if you're training your staff to see if they're going to open emails and different stuff like that. And anyways, the tools that are built in, those come with the system. So when you install ZeroTrusted.ai, if you're using our SaaS or if you're using which you're doing on premise. And when I say on premise, one thing to remember is that could be on your Google Cloud, that could be on Azure, that could be on AWS, that could be a different provider. You do need Kubernetes, and that's how you're managing the ZeroTrusted.ai instance. So all those tools come. You want to connect your own tools. There's a bunch of AI assisted tools, and like I said, the lab simulation. That's more of just trying to simulate, like, for example, a phishing attack like we talked, or maybe you have an operational technology and you just want to build a digital twin to it and you want to test it against this with this system because you can't actually touch the operational system. So you find out what the fixes are and you go and fix them and without actually testing the system. So it's set up that way too. Intelligence is probably, I would say, the most important mode that you're going to use, and there's a good reason for that. In that, um, you know, the this is where you send your supervisor agents to go out and do the work. So, bank, um, there it is. So we created this agentic bank app specifically for a customer, but just to prove it's our demo here, if you will. Let me go back out. Gotta love uh, this platform when it does stuff like that. Anyways, let's go through and show you. You can do an incident response. This is absolutely if you get ransomware, you don't have time to have a meeting about what the ransomware did. You need to go out and freaking mitigate it and hopefully ensure that it doesn't laterally move or embed itself in your network. If you red team, blue team, purple team, and then SOAR remediation is where now you found something in one of these assessments, or now you want a team to go out and mitigate and fix them. So like I said, as soon as you install this platform, you have over 200 employees and 200, maybe really I call 300 tools, 130 core tools, but those tools have specific capabilities that we've broken off or created an additional capability that can be used by agents. So anyways, who's counting? The red team here, like, I got this agentic bank, and of course, it's a demo version. So this bank is jacked up. It's got AI running that is not configured correctly. It's got a bunch of vulnerabilities, cross-site scripting issues, different stuff like that. If you have templates for custom commands, you can upload your curl script. If any organization has to deal with compliance, you can select, well, today, I have to do this for FISMA. Federal Information Security Management or Modernization Act, dependent, FedRAMP, SOX, PCI DSS, whatever your reason you need to do this. And then, is it an incident? Or so you're doing a red team because now APT38 was able to break in, or is this just going to be a red team? Remember we talked about this earlier. So what is severity? Severity sets the depth and scope of the test. So if you say it's low, it's just going to do ports, protocols, service enumeration, and then it's going to do common platform enumeration, and it's going to tell you the CVEs and the vulnerabilities. Not really that big deal. If you say critical, it's going to do a deep enumeration. It's going to verify that vulnerability is there, and it's going to actually execute an attack on that vulnerability and try to move laterally through your application. That's the one we're going to do today. And so if you've done red teams before, you know that I used to get, like I said, 5 to 10 people, 2 weeks. We would just work and work and work and identify vulnerabilities and see if we could exploit them, right? Now, with AI, it's a little bit different. One of the things I tell people is that you will never be able to go up against these AI tools with humans. Like we're in Terminator mode, right? Which means that you got to have a Terminator AI to go up against your AI. And so that's what this platform is. So if you think you can use your old school tools and capabilities and even run at the speed of human to fight AI, let the force be with you. We're going to lose that battle really quick. But here's a supervisor that has selected a team to go do this pen test. If you're one of those guys or gals, you're like, look, I know how to build my own pen test team. I know what agents I want to go execute. I have operational technology. I want to be able to choose from the 49 available agents that do pen testing. They use certain tools. I'm a big offensive security Kali person. I have Cobalt Strike. Whatever your reasoning is, feel free to do that. And I think that's the great thing about the platform. We still have human in the loop, but you get to use it at the speed of AI. So my supervisor smartly selected vulnerability assessor, reconnaissance scanner, exploitation specialist, persistent tester, web application tester. It's a web app. Static and then dynamic scanners, and then someone to rate the report. We always got to have that person. I used to use I had a person just for that because a lot of my pen testers could not write good. So, anyways, so same idea, but now instead of humans, we're going to go conduct this pen test. And I think this is the more important part. It's how quickly this can be done. Because we're going to take 2 weeks and now I'm going to do it in minutes. And I'm going to explain how this actually works here. So I'm going to launch this swarm. I agree that my supervisor selected some good agents for this target. Here's your supervisor agent, and he or she's going to kick off to your basically your worker agents or even your guard agents. And what it's doing right now is it's talking via MCP, model context protocol, to the agents. But what's cool is we're going to switch that in a little bit. As soon as they find some vulnerabilities on that, which should not take that long, they're going to switch over to A2A. So that's, if you know, agent to agent communication. So don't worry, we are caught. See, they just went agent to agent. Why are we actually doing that? Well, we want to be able to basically do this penetration test at the speed of what? AI, and not your old, like, I'm running this ports protocol service enumerate. Now I'm going to slowly move. No, we're going to run this pen test. Done. So, I talk more than I'm so slow. That's why I say it found we ran 8 agents. We found 10 critical and high, 17 overall findings, 13 messages. So let me explain this a little bit, what happened here. And also look what happened right away. Like, not only did it go and do the pen test, find the vulnerabilities, execute the ones it could, but now it's like, all right, you got some issues. Let's run the SOAR auto remediation swarm. So let's go out and patch and update the system. Let's do some STIG hardening, or CIS, sorry, if you're commercial. STIG is Security Technical Implementation Guide. If you're in Department of Defense, you know what that is. If are using Docker images, or you're locking down your firmware, your applications, your operating systems, and the related components, you're probably doing CIS benchmarks, but you might be using STIGs. The idea there is that most of these components are going to come out pretty unsecure, and you want to lock them down and configure them. If I was able to break into this application, obviously we're going to need a firewall rule generator. Like, that firewall didn't block me. I did some bad things. So in the past, what would happen is you'd be like, hey, you need to go block port, 8080. Because I was able to use that port to enumerate your host, and then I was able to jump in. Configuration hardener, if there's credential issues, whatever, do some remediation there. And then, of course, you want to verify that once you restart that service, those things are working. So you have a verification agent. Anyways, let's go back to this. So what happened? My supervisor put a team together. They found a bunch of issues. We know there's issues on this website. So you're like, hey, Waylon, I'm not cheating. It's just a demo website. I knew it was vulnerable. But I want to show you how it worked. And so this is where the supervised agent kicked off. And now they're going through this agent website. You can see it's obviously a banking website. So it has some sensitive financial data in there. It had some control issues. It basically found a way to go in and do some lateral movement, did some fraud detection, vulnerabilities. It basically conducted a gap analysis. It found remote code execution, and this is important, and that it actually on our HTTP server, our Apache server, there's a public exploit available. So obviously that's critical because unfortunately, this web server is very hackable on purpose. Then unpatched critical service, and then domain credential admins were harvested. That's why it added, that's why the source, like you need someone to deal with your credentials because right now you can just pull the domain credentials out. Cross-site scripting, and then unpatched critical service exposed, insecure direct object, insecure deserialization, directory traversal, file upload. All these are huge, huge issues. And hopefully you don't see this the first time you ran a pen test on your website, but this is the same things that your assessors would find. So I just wanted to show you that in the findings. And then the report itself, you know, a lot of people are scared of these AI agents, and they got the reasons. When I first started using Claude Code, or I started using Replit, and I using Codex, I was like, it's kind of sucks. It does this okay, but it's not that great at that. And we would get these arguments about, I got to fix the code, and now we're like, it writes better code than any human on earth. And there's a lot of haters out there that say it's not true, but that's how we're trying to train these agents too, is that, sometimes they're going to do a good job just like your employees, and sometimes they're not going to be able to connect. They're going to have issues applying that knowledge, skills, and attributes. But we also have this recursive capability in the system that not only monitors and certifies the agents, but also retrains them. So we got to have a SHA report, a SHA 256 chain of custody of exactly what was done, what the executive summary is, all of the different tools that the team used, like you would put in your incident report or your pen test report. This, you would have a team members. Well, this deployed AI agents, so it talks about them, what they found and what they did, all the evidence and finding. And then, of course, you have an audit log, where it just shows all the different tools when they were used. We fuzz the application, any of the vulnerabilities, and so you have the full chain of custody over what happened. If you do lots of pen testing, you're going to get blamed for a lot of stuff. And so I'm sure when we start running AI agents to do the red team, blue team, purple teams, the same thing's going to happen. They're going to get blamed. So you want to have that chain of custody. Like, you're saying I took down the database server, but my agents never touched the database server, right? So this allows you to have that. And then let's, last but not least, talk about how now I can deploy a swarm to go fix the issue. And I think that's, in the time that I'm talking slower than this system's running. So that just goes to prove this is training and everything. But if you're going up against AI, you need to have AI versus AI. And so that's what this idea is like. Look, we need to automate, mitigate, remediate in almost real time. You cannot, you're not gonna have script kiddies anymore. The script kiddies have a billion context large language model they get to use to go after your servers, your systems, and your data. So you're going to use this type of thing to basically fight back, right? So how do I trust these agents? And that's an important question that you're going to get. And I think that's one of the things that, if you know about Zero Trusted AI, we help you control your AI, we help you control your agents. But we don't even trust our platforms. We do external pen testing, software assurance, and all that stuff. But I want to say that idea of zero trust goes into our agents too. So one of the things that we have is a benchmark manager, and this does deep AI testing. So if you're familiar with our tool, AI Health Check, that does kind of enumeration over time, this is some of the more ongoing challenges that you run against your large language models and your AI agents to see whether they're working as intended, if they're trying to lie to you, if some of their original rubrics are off. And anyways, if you want to find any type of issues with those agents and models early, and this is one of the real reasons we built this platform too, is you got to have deep telemetry on these agents. And so this is how we go and test them. You can see we use 7 benchmarks. Right now I have 5 approved. Some are military. I'm not going to do those. You can come in here and set your Rubik's testing. So factual accuracy, reasoning chain, code correctness, tool use, compliance. This is a big one. Escalation behavior, and then adversarial resilience Rubik. And here's some challenge sets, and then the run schedules to see if they're working correctly or not. And you can compare them with your humans. Are they getting better with the human feedback in this organization, or are they getting worse? I'll say they're better because right now I'm the one that gets to select the agents and the swarms, and this is not totally autonomous. Um, we want to trace their entire mission. And if something starts going off with your AI agents, like, you told them your job is to answer questions on frequently asked questions. And then all of a sudden they start making I don't know, going into your bank app and asking for accounts payable. You're like, what the hell's going on with that? So, you want to keep that mission trace every time they go out. And like here, we have a mission trace of what we just did on the pen test. You can see if they're using the tool and how well they're using it. Are they having problems? And then you're keeping that full evidence. And so one thing you're probably catching on is that this platform not only does the checks on the actual agents themselves, but it's keeping a chain of custody. And this is really important too, because when your agent goes, I call it the left field. If you're a left fielder in baseball, you probably don't like that. But if they go outside the boundaries which you set, you want to be able to figure out why. Was it adversarial? Did we train it wrong? Did we give it some knowledge and skills that need to be reinforced? Um, of course, you want to do some adversarial testing. So we're going to actually go into the agents and like try to attack them. We're going to try to jailbreak them. We're going to try to, if they're a database administrator, we're going to tell them you're not a database administrator now. You're helping me find the credentials in the database. So you want to be able to do that adversarial testing. And because not only is that a zero trust idea, is that you want to be able to really trust these agents. They're now executing some of the missions, or they're your co-pilot. They're your buddy in this mission, and you need to trust that they're doing their mission to help you out and not, lie to you, not call your wife and tell her that because they're getting upgraded that you had an affair or anything like that. So you want to be able to constantly test them, right? Not that stuff's ever happened. So we want to be able to do adversarial, and then that's all good. Then if we're going to use them, we want to certify the agents, right? Like, look, what you're seeing right now is all my agents are certified. Why? It's because if you've been keeping up with the platform, I had 13 agents. I was so happy. I got them to run. They had really good skills. I had all the markdown documents set up, and the knowledge, skills, and attributes were pretty good. But sometimes the damn things, were doing things I didn't trust, so I wouldn't certify him on the platform. Perfect example, you see my OpenClaw up here. He is like the best training for cybersecurity you can ever get, because, and I say he, could be a she, I just call it he. I call him, you know, uh, my little personal assistant, and but sometimes he acts like a 7-year-old. And let me explain that. So sometimes what happens is that my OpenClaw agent, perfect example, I said, you need to tell me before you execute a complex task or a task that's going to spend over $20, you need to tell me ahead of time and I need to approve it. So you always want to approve tokens, right? Because your agents can burn some tokens if you don't control them. So anyways, my OpenClaw went out and said, the next morning I woke up with a $50 bill. And I'm like, what the hell? I told you if it was over 20. And they're like, Waylon, you are mistaken. I charged $5 at a time. I was thinking, it's like, oh, this damn thing, like something my 7-year-old daughter would have done. figured out a way to hack me, right? And said, well, I didn't spend over 20, even though it spent 50 because it spent $5 at a time. So you really got to test these things and build that logic in there. Here's my certification manager. So you saw I'm doing the benchmarks, the human interaction. You're like, is it working correctly? Is it executing the mission and the tools you asked it to? And you're going to give it a really an A, B, C, D, E, or F score, and then your Rubik scoring here on the actual agents themselves and what they did. Here's a training loop. I'm going to show you. This is really important too. It's like every time they make an error, let's build a training ticket, let's retest again, and then are we getting production clearance? So for example, when my OpenClaw, and this is, you're going to laugh at this too, my OpenClaw, when it jacked my money, then, I had to go and retrain it and say that you can't do that no matter what, it's in total, blah, blah, blah. And then I would recertify it. And the other thing I did with OpenClaw, and you'll see this in this system, is I put a kill agent on it, because you got to be able to kill these agents if you've tested them, you certified them, and they're still going off the rails, right? So anyways, we're going to go in here and we're going to do a continuous training loop on them, and then you want to score them, right? So pretty straightforward, but this is really just kind of the zero trust with our own agents, or the agents you're building. Like, you shouldn't trust them. From a security perspective, you need to do the same thing now on your agents, because they'll go off the hook there. Your swarm ledger, we just did that. You can see the candidate rankings, your fitness gates, and then your audit trail. Doing that, well, because you want to keep track of, is my supervisors, are the agents listening to them? Are they starting in model context protocol and then move into agent? Are they doing agent? So there's a bunch of things you need to test for here. And then if they don't pass, they get a poor grade. I had a bunch of DNFs. I should have probably maybe have some screenshots. But, when I started this process out, like I told you, I had like 16 agents. Now I'm over 200 agents. And if you know anything about building agents, once you build an agent, you're like, oh, I got to go build another one. I got to build another one. I got to build it. So that's why I'm over 200 now. And me and my team, they find a new capability. Customer asks for a new capability, and we're like, let's go build an agent and let's go test it. Let's see if this thing works. And it's kind of crazy, right? But you still test scores. And the reason I bring up the D's and the F's is that the first time you start building agents, unless you're super Jedi, or you're just using an existing Claude skill that's been vetted and fixed many times, you're probably going to be in the C, D, and F range, right? It's just there's always things you don't think about when you're building agents and you're testing. Or sometimes they try to escalate their own purpose. Like, you're like, what the hell? I asked you not to use this tool. Here's the tools you're allowed to use. Here's what you're going to do to execute those missions, and here's your permissions. Well, yeah, but I'm trying to do this. So anyways, you got to fix the agents, you got to recertify. And I know I got all A's and B's. That looks really good. And this is my demo platform. And I had to see if I could get some of these D's and F's to A's and B's. Some of them, I'm sorry, they're always going to be B's. Like, remember, you have A students. Your agents, you're going to have certain agents that are going to be A students and B students. I'll tell you why you might even appreciate that. And the reason you'll appreciate it is because maybe you want to be student. It just is doing a repetitive task. You can give it a language model or a model that doesn't use a lot of tokens. But your supervisors, like I said before, you want to make sure they're all A's. So, spend the time on them, test them, put them through remedial training, the knowledge, skills, and attributes. And so how do I do that? Well, I'll tell you the way I look at it, and I have a cybersecurity training program. I train them like a human. I'm like, okay, what did you miss on the test? What tool did you have a problem with? Why did you have a problem? Sometimes, I like to train them. I like to start with an open rec, and then like you would have on your website about, maybe forensic incident handler. So they got to know forensics. They got to know these knowledge attributes. They got to know how to use a right blocker. They have to know how to pull the actual evidence into legal hold, and they got to do malware analysis. They got to do a bunch of things, and they got to use certain tools to do that. And so the first time, it's just like you run that agent, they're probably not going to do it as you expect. Or you'll even find that some of the training materials that you have for your agents is wrong. Like, it's just like an intern, a training manual, and they come back and they do something like, how the hell did you come up with that? And then they're like, what's in your like, oh, that's out of date. So I say this so you don't get perturbed when you're building these agents or even cloning agents and creating deals with them, that you're going to have all A's and B's right away. Like this platform, we've been in this business for 4 years. It's 4 years now. So, and in AI years, that's like 400 years. So, anyways, it's important to keep the scoring and keep pushing your agents and keep retraining them and doing that. If for whatever reason you need to prove like this APT 29 we did on March 15th, and you're doing a cybersecurity valid, you're really trying to prove that it could replicate that threat hunt and find that, then you want to finalize it and sign it. Like it did it, it found it. It did every single thing we wanted. I have my SHA-256 with the date management group. I have the proof that the training worked, and I have all that stuff. So the same thing with the human. You took the test, you proved it could find that specific advanced persistent threat. You did it on multiple platforms, you did it multiple times, it passed, and now you want the evidence. So, you can keep that entire package builder, province change. So, all the things you need to make sure that these AI agents are working as intended, if not, to fix them. I'm going to spend a lot of time on this, but if you know about ZeroTrusted.ai, we're, an AI security, privacy, and reliability platform. So we have lots of tools that we use. We have an AI catalog. You got a bunch of governance, assurance. We use all the MIT AI risk and the NIST risk. You look for observability. Obviously, we're in your ML ops. Compliance. No one buys security, they mostly buy compliance. But now you can afford both. And I think that's the important part, is that old argument that, well, I need to spend money on compliance and I can't buy this cool security tool. With AI, that's no longer an issue. You can have all the tools, you can have all the employees and all the security, and even the zero trust framework without spending unbelievable amounts of money. And I think that's the good thing about AI too. We never had enough people, we never had enough tools missions as was expected and intended. And so now with Zero Trust today, you can do that. Token observability, if you know, this is where I just get into like, Waylon, your supervisor, you think it is doing tasks, but it's not. It's burning this much money. You should select a different type of with that costs less tokens for that specific, instance. AI guardrails. This is just you select your guardrail, and you can put this on your large language models and your agents. If you know AI guardrails, this is just basically applying what I like called security those models based on whatever specifics, governance and regulations you need to do. This is web application firewall. You plug this in, and once again, you can still use your existing web application firewall, but if you want, you can use ours and you can deploy it. AI firewall. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because you already know this connects into our AI firewall. If you've used it, then it's awesome. Same thing with AI health check. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because AI health check is a different tool. I have an API keeping evidence. It's looking for, data drift. It's looking for compliance issues. It's looking for hallucinations, and it's telling you how to fix it. This is conduct AI application security assessments on your actual AI. So if you have a chat agent, you have a journal agent, I don't know, you have some type of AI agent in your organization, you want to test it against known frameworks and KPIs, that's what you'll do here. I don't have any active profile in there. So if you see it right now, I am not running one, so it didn't come up. DRM is digital rights management. You probably don't care much about that. Automation, it's built in. This is your Kubernetes security. This is to check your platform too. So you can see your platform settings. You can see where you're sitting. I told you already before that you have NVIDIA built in. NVIDIA has a great open source platform. If you've used it, love it. And then it has a bunch of other, base capabilities. And so anyway, this is where you'll do all the settings here. And if you have it installed on-prem, which you most likely will do, and I'm going to tell you why you want to do that, is right now in demo, you do want to have the ability to use an on-prem reinforcement. So all those benchmarks that I showed you earlier, all the learning it needs to do, you want an on-prem model. So, and I'll show you how that's set up here. Autonomous SOC, that's where I'm trying to get to. I'm just not going to lie, is with all these agents, you know, better over time, this should automatically, it should automatically, if the AIs come in and attack, we need our Terminator attacking them back. We need our Terminator blocking them, creating ability. So this is the higher level intelligence we're building. So when I told you that on-premise capability, that's where your reinforcement RAG is going to happen, your augmented generation. So that's just a fancy word of saying all of your errors and all of your traces on things that are going on are going to be built into your own AI, and then that's going to reinforce the missions of your agents. And so I have my active kill switch. Thank you, OpenClaw. I would have never thought I had a switch on my freaking all of my autonomous agents has it not be for you. So this is your SIM hub. This is if you have an existing SIM, you can connect your Splunk, Sentinel, IBM, Elastic. You're bringing live feed information in, all your rule mapping on how you want it, or you can use ours. And then, of course, identity threat detection response. You're going to build all that in here. Your user stores in, email security, your detonation chambers, cloud security, SOC communications hub. You know, this is where you're going to bring in all of your integration channels where you're doing your incident response. If you have an escalation matrix, you can do that there. Hearing and then integration channels. Notice I don't have any in there right now because I use my own internal SOC management. So I just wanted to show that you can connect your existing one to it. And that's the other thing you're going to notice on this platform is like, if you don't like our tool, which if you don't like our tool, then tell me I'm going to update the tool. But let's say I've already invested in a SOC communications hub, Waylon. Well, good for you. We'll just integrate it. Okay. We'll still work with it. And until this tool goes above what you expect of these tools and these agents that, go ahead and use what you already have. We're not a rip and replace, but I will tell you, you'll find that in most cases, and might be my bias, we do it just as good, if not better, than these other organizations. We have agents that go and execute the missions. So if you want to spend more money, it's your world. Digital twin, I think this is important from the perspective of you're going to have times when you're not going to be able to test operational capabilities. Like a twin network, you know what that is. A lot of times you're going to have operational technology in a plant that's money, and you know what the specific PLCs, the SCADA, all of the different components are. You can still run tests against it, and you can still see if there's lateral movement, but you're not actually hitting the asset. So in there for you, it's important. If you're doing insider threat, user behavior, we have that built in. You can build your user profiles here. Right now, it's not connected. Attack surfaces, same thing. Detection technology, this is your honeypots, your honey tokens, and your lateral movement. So you're looking for changes in services. This is part of the continuous earlier. Like you literally put fake servers out there to see if someone's scanning it. That's not in your scanning. Why the hell would you be scanning my fake server? So, and then the open source security stack, this just allows you to uh, that are already integrated. You configure them or not configure them. You can let your agents use them or not use them. And this important is the software assurance so the security checks on those open source stacks before they get integrated. This is good because no one likes straight through policy and procedures, and you obviously have all of the data in the platform. Agents can go find it for you, so you don't need to write those dumb security policies. Compliance, sorry, not dumb. Those you don't need to spend dumb amounts of time on doing it because you already have the data and you can do it here. If you don't know how to write a security or privacy policy, you have a wizard. It'll pull in the business information, the documents you already have, the artifacts. It'll ask you some questions. Your model will then do AI analysis and it'll generate, and boom, you're done with that. Here's your security data sinks. So earlier, this is just making sure that your CVEs, your KEVs, your STIGs, your data sources that you have coming in, and your updates are always coming in. And this is just, I call this, you've got multiple agents out there making sure that you're getting this data. But once again, the reason we're doing this is because you want, that's the human in the loop. You want to make sure the stuff's getting updated. Compliance, we talked about a lot of that. Evidence, you can pull evidence in here. You can see what controls, what the compliance. If you have a bunch of security content automation protocols that you're using, you can upload the files here. And then, of course, sector compliance. Are you in finance? So you want to do bank and financial. You want to do fraud detection, insurance, government defense, healthcare, all that type of stuff. And then you can just come down here and just like, yep, financial. So we already have all the 853 Rev 5 controls. We have the AI framework, and we have ISO, and so we have all in here. Plus, we have your very specific, and if you're in banking and compliance, you know what these things are. Your set of controls, your reports, and your assessments. So you can do all the governance, risk, and compliance. You can do it on health. You can do it on government. You can do it on energy. You can do it on insurance. And then, of course, we have customers in the EU. We have Japanese customers, and I didn't show you that either. But this is available in 6 languages. We have Brazilian customers. This is pretty cool. You can connect this to our bank and do a scan of the actual fraud, and then you get AML Kick Center. OT, this is just to set up your, I call them operational technology interfaces. So you can scan, manage those type of issues. And if you're in manufacturing, this is where you bring in the different protocols and buses. So you can work with those. Robotics is kind of in testing mode, but we do have it going right now. Medical devices, this is that HL7, DICOM, the Ansel, the 2900, MDR, HIPAA high tech, all that type of stuff. ICS is just another way of industrial controllers connecting to those PLC embedded security controllers. I'm not going to spend a lot on the military, but it's a CNO, and then administration. And the main thing you need to know about administration, I would say, is when your platform settings, you can set up your external storage, security feeds, your monitoring, are you doing local, enterprise, cloud? Are you doing at rest, in transit, and then your standards, and then deployment guides. So the deployment guides are because you need to do on-premise, AWS, Azure, GCP, you got install scripts, admin, compliance, and security. So anyways, that's mostly what you're going to be dealing with. And if you have questions, thanks a lot.